Hey, it's Friday recap or what I call the leaders corner. I'm going to recap what I've seen this week. And it's funny how we each week seem to have some kind of a theme to the week. And I don't know if it's just my focus that goes there, but this week was an interesting one. I got to talk to a few different organizations this week about their growth and concerns about growth. How do we grow better? It was really focused around not just growth, but the different phases of growth for an organization. And now I happen to like the Adizes model of growth, which is kind of like a human. So, when a company is, before it's ever founded, uh, a couple gets together and then eventually they have a baby, and that's the birth of the company when we're thinking about a company or an organization. And then after the birth of the baby, then there's the toddler years, learning all kinds of new things and growing very quickly. There's the childhood years. Well, it seems like I tend to get involved with organizations that are in what we call the adolescent years or that adolescent phase where there's still growth going on and sometimes rapid growth, but there's a lot of growing pains. And that kind of makes sense that a consultant, coach, assessment expert like myself would come in at that point because when it's a brand new company, when it's growing rapidly, finding out its first ways of really being successful, there isn't a lot of outside help that's needed. But as organizations grow and have other needs, like let's get our finances in order here, let's keep better books, let's get better processes and systems in place. But then where I come in is on the people side. How do we do a better job with people? And there's something we have to watch very closely. And I see this with a lot of organizations. When they get to a certain point, especially those entrepreneurial kinds of organizations, where they grow to a certain point, there is a danger of falling into what we call the founder's trap, which is when the founder literally uh, keeps control. Everything still runs through them, and it's very difficult at times for them to delegate or to allow the company to grow past where they are right now. So the conversations this week around growth, some of it was theoretical with certain people, but some of it was very, very practical. And what are the signs that a company may be struggling, maybe in that adolescent phase and having those growing pains? One is, can they find the right talent and attract the right talent and keep the right talent? So it's all of the talent kinds of things, but it's also what's the balance between people and experience and what people bring and the systems and processes that should be put in place. And you'll notice I use the term balance there. So there are some people that lean heavily onto systems and processes, thinking if we invest in those, then it'll be easier for people to get things done. And there's truth in that. But every single systems implementation that I've seen added more work than it removed or that it resolved. Yes, the work changed and maybe it's a different type of work, but it didn't really reduce the load on people. So one of the key issues I discussed with actually two organizations this week was this concept of capacity in people. Are we asking our people to do too much? Or what should we be able to expect of our people? And I think that's an excellent question, and definitely a question for the leaders' corner here, our Friday recap. The answer is, if you don't continue to offer opportunities for people to grow their capacity, then you're going to be stuck where you are. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. So I'm not saying overload people, because there are people who think, hey, we'll just give them as much as possible, let them sink or swim. What they do right and do well, that's great. If they mess it up, well, we'll find a different way to do it. I don't recommend that, because you're taking a toll on the individual that you're putting that on, their burden, their plate, that you're just adding to. And frankly, burnout is a real thing. And if people are dissatisfied, then you're probably going to lose them. People do not leave companies, they leave managers. And so if you think about what that means, good management, good leadership is really critical, especially when the growth of an organization has reached a plateau and needs to be able to move to that next level. So part of that happens when we help develop people and help them grow their capacity. By the way, most people, the reason that they get dissatisfied is not necessarily some of the things that people think it is. It really resides more around, is there a good culture to work in? Is there a way for me individually as an employee to feel like I've accomplished something, to feel like I'm able to grow, I'm able to accomplish and achieve things and have good goals? And you, as the organization, are you willing to invest in me and in my growth? If there's any formula right now for attracting the best talent, getting them up to speed, and retaining the best talent, that's it right there. Are you willing to invest in them? And then are they in turn willing to invest back in the organization? It's a mutually beneficial relationship. And there are many different ways to do that. I've talked about some of that before on other recordings, where I talked about assessments to give us good data, to make good decisions, to help people understand what is their developmental pathway, how can they grow. And this is so important in smaller organizations. Now, what do I mean by smaller? Anybody that's under 100 employees, I consider a fairly small organization. 100 to 500 is kind of that next step up. 500 to 1,000 is that next step above that. But anybody who has, say, 500 employees or less really has a different need when it comes to some of their talent, because most organizations like that require people to wear multiple hats and have multiple responsibilities. It isn't just the George Jetson approach. I'm dating myself here. Sorry, everybody. But that's a cartoon basically where all George did all day was push a button at the right time. All the systems were in place, all the processes were in place, and his hard work every day consisted of pushing a button at the right time. And I guess if you're in a large organization, there's more of that approach. But this is where the growth process is so important, because managed growth, where there's a balance between systems and processes and people development, and where the organization is willing to invest in people, that is a recipe for success. And then the more that you can project that out into the marketplace, the more your employer brand builds. And that's another conversation I had this week, was about employer brand and how important it is. I'm currently working with one organization, and have worked with them for a while, where their employer brand is not very good. And they've literally had candidates turn them down simply because of their reputation. And that reputation can be tainted in many ways. It doesn't just have to be toxicity. I think that's what most people think is, oh, bad, not good, I don't want to go there. And sure, toxicity is a problem, but sometimes it's indecision. Sometimes it's a lack of a collaborative environment. Sometimes it's a lack of psychological safety that gives an organization a bad employer brand. All of those things are really important because the competition for good talent is pretty stiff. It's really difficult to find right fit talent in the marketplace today. And when you do, you need to go after it and you need to secure that talent for the long term. And it takes an investment. So just wanted to share a few things around growth for this Friday's recap, because I think it's really important because we're actually talking about parallel measures of growth. First, we're talking about growth of the business or the organization. Is it growing? Is it healthy? Second is, are our revenues growing? Are they healthy? Our financials, our revenues. Then people, are they growing within the organization? Are they healthy? Is the well-being and the psychological safety where it needs to be? Then you have systems and processes, and all of these things parallel and work together. But what I see mostly in organizations is this kind of roller coaster approach that we're going to push on this for a while and then we're going to go over here and push here. And there isn't really a good managed approach to growth across those dimensions. When we get a better approach, a multidimensional approach to growth, where there's balanced growth across multiple dimensions, you have a lot better chance of creating what we call sustained growth and sustained success. So just wanted to leave you some thoughts today on that. Notice that I got comfortable today as soon as I could finish the day and get comfortable. So it's late in the evening, but I wanted to share that because there is so many questions out there about growth and about people growth and development and about systems and process growth. My approach, what I consult and coach around, is think of growth in multiple dimensions, not just any one measure, because any one measure will only give you one facet to look at. And when you see a diamond and when you turn that diamond, you notice it has many, many facets. We need to see all of the facets and take those into account as we consider growth and what growth means. So, hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy it and touch base again soon.